Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the Yuuzhan Vong, the children of Yuuzhan. They've killed over 365 trillion sentient beings in their invasion of the Star Wars galaxy. The Yuuzhan Vong were an extragalactic empire who came over from their own galaxy, which was destroyed. They were immune to the effects of the Force, and therefore it was very hard for the Jedi to fight them, as they couldn't feel them through the Force and couldn't predict their attacks. The Yuuzhan Vong were a very religious race, who saw machines and anybody who used them as infidels waiting to be cleansed. All the technology the Yuuzhan Vong used was completely bioengineered. These technologies included Yamosks, which were a kind of living battle analysis computer, Villups, which is what they used to communicate with each other, Dovin Basils, which were a smaller type of black hole, which they would use to divert incoming blaster fire, as well as to bring planets' moons down on them to destroy the planet, as they did on Cernpedal. Most of their ships were made from Yorick coral, which was a type of material that they were able to grow and mass produce. They also had an amphistaff for combat, which were snake-like creatures that could be used as weapons and even spat venom. The Yuuzhan Vong amplified their body with bioengineered implants. Yuuzhan Vong society was based around pain and sacrifice to their gods. They believed pain was a constant in life and would therefore glorify it. As the Yuuzhan Vong grew, they would sacrifice part of their bodies and replace it with implants, which made them more powerful. Because of this, nobody knew what a real Yuuzhan Vong looked like. Yuuzhan Vong society worked in a caste-based system. In the bottom, you had the worker caste. The worker caste was made up of Yuuzhan Vong born there, some members of conquered species, some Yuuzhan Vong who had failed in other castes, and the shamed ones. The shamed ones were the Yuuzhan Vong whose bodies had rejected their implants and therefore had no place in Yuuzhan Vong society, as this was seen as the gods rejecting them. Then there was the intendant caste. The intendant caste kept Yuuzhan Vong society working as normal. They would manage the economy as well as be government and politicians. They also managed the slave force that Yuuzhan Vong had. They were the smallest of the castes, and they honored Yunharla, the trickster goddess. Notable intendants include Nomanor, who managed to trick even the Jedi, and the Supreme Overlord who led the invasion of the galaxy came from the Intendant caste. After the Intendants came the Warrior caste. The Warrior caste was one of the biggest castes in Yuuzhan Vong society. They served as the armies of the Yuuzhan Vong and were trained from an early age to fight. They wanted honor in combat and would not tolerate cowardice. They wore living Von Dune crab armor, which was resistant to blaster fire and even lightsabers. But they did have a weak spot in the armpits and the hip area. The warriors worshipped the god Yumyamka, the Slayer. A notable member of the warrior caste is Savong La, the War Master. Next is the Priest caste. The Priest caste worshipped all the deities of the Yuuzhan Vong religion. They had different sects, each serving a different deity. They would also serve important roles in cleansing Yuuzhan Vong who had come in contact with technology. After the priests came the Shaper caste. The Shapers developed and created all the Yuuzhan Vong biotechnologies. A Shaper would gain more fingers as they advanced through the ranks. Each finger could be modified to include tools and/or weapons, helping with shaping. A beginner or adept would begin with 5 fingers, and eventually, when they became a master shaper, would have 8. Finally, we have the Supreme Overlord. He was the only Yuuzhan Vong with direct contact with Yuuzhan, the most powerful deity in the Yuuzhan Vong religion. Family was an important part of Yuuzhan Vong society. These families were called domains. Some domains were more powerful than others. Yuuzhan Vong were also forbidden from having romantic relationships with people outside of their caste. If they did, they would be sacrificed to the lover gods Yun Qin and Yun Ka. As I said before, the Yuuzhan Vong were from another galaxy. They were originally a force-sensitive species from a tropical planet called Yuuzhan Tar. This meant creche of the gods. There was one more thing about this planet. It was a living planet, and the Yuuzhan Vong lived in symbiosis with it. Then, they were caught in a war between two completely mechanical and functioning droid societies called the Silentium and the Abominor, which was the source of their xenophobia and technophobia. The living planet helped them and bestowed them with secrets to creating their feared biotechnology. As their war against these two droid empires went on, they became more violent and warlike, and eventually they forced both of these empires to flee their own galaxy. After defeating these two droid societies, they would go on a galaxy-wide crusade to cleanse the galaxy of all mechanical technology. This led them to exterminating and enslaving entire races. After these massacres, they would have a big civil war which would pit domain against domain and would end up destroying most of their home galaxy and their home world, Yuuzhan Tar. This caused them to lose symbiosis with Yuuzhan Tar, meaning that they would be stripped from the Force. Having lost symbiosis with their homeworld, they would go on to start believing in several deities, as well as practicing body modifications on themselves. Being stripped from the Force caused great pain, and would be the foundation of Yuuzhan Vong's glorification of pain in their society. With most of their galaxy in ruins, the Yuuzhan Vong set off on a millennium-long trip across the void in their massive world ships, heading towards a galaxy far, far away.